Is America barreling towards a recession? According to the Moody's Analytics chief economist, the answer may be yes, saying 22 states and Washington, D.C. are either at risk or already in a
Why is it
recession.
California on that
They account
list?
for nearly a third of the national GDP. And he says while the national economy isn't there quite yet, it's, quote, clearly losing steam. News Nation's Alicia Nieves has been crunching the numbers for us. Good morning, Alicia. Just how real are these recession concerns?
They're very real, Hannah. I mean, we're starting to see unofficial recessions indicators flash, and they're flashing bright reds. Many Americans, even many on Wall Street, are focusing on them because we're in the middle of this federal data blackout thanks to the government shutdown. So it's the only thing we have to look at right now. The clearest indicator of a slowdown is coming via overdue car payments. Right now, 6.5% of subprime borrowers, those with credit scores below 670, or at least 60 days late on their car loans. This is according to Fitch Ratings. That's actually worse than any point during the past three recessions. You're talking the COVID pandemic, the Great Recession, or even the dot-com bust. And
If you have a credit score below 640 right now, you are paying 12, 15, 20% on your car payments. And that number of 6.4 seems low, but I guarantee if that number gets to 8 or 9, 10%, I mean, the alarm will be sounding. I think the alarm is sounding right now. The headlines have to say, oh, the economy is strong. Remember, she is talking about unofficial data when it comes to a recession. Officially, they cannot come out and say we are in a recession. Why? Because that would collapse the market, right? Remember, anything that Trump says or does, it either has a positive or a negative effect on the market. But you got to guys have to remember the stock market does not tell the story or the reality of the everyday American, right? So we know that prices are up, hours are down, and jobs are being phased out. We see all that. We hear it every single day on the news. Okay. Um, and what that means is that they're never going to come out and say the recession is here or the depression is here because that is not what the narrative has to be at this moment. The narrative has to be that the economy is great, doing great. But then you get this other particular information, even from the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. He said, he said hiring is kind of at a halt right now. But if hiring's at a halt, why is the stock market going through the roof? So like what's really going on, right? We know that layoffs are happening, right? Debt is at an all-time record, right? Loans and payday, I'm sorry, loans and car notes aren't being paid, right? And that isn't even talking about housing. We'll get to that hopefully in the future here, but let's continue.
we're seeing cars repossessed at the highest rate since 2008 and 2009. Now, we're also seeing a pawn shop indicator where pawn shop operators are reporting a boom in lending. First Cash, the largest pawn company in the country, says same-store pawn loans, those are up at the end of June 13% from the year prior, while Easy Corp, which runs hundreds of pawn stores across the country, said loans outstanding, those rose 11% in the last quarter, up to more than $291 million. And this one's really interesting, kind of a newer one. GoFundMe, that crowdfunding application, the CEO recently told Yahoo Finance that there has been an increase in users launching campaigns to pay for a category they call essential, things like car notes or even groceries. Now, typically, it's important to have context here.
Hold on. What I think this really means is that the confidence of the everyday person is collapsing. People are scared to spend, they're scared to invest, right? And that's all for good reason, right? And you're seeing that we're using alternative ways to borrow money. I didn't even know pawn shops, to be honest. I could be like stuck on a rock somewhere. I didn't even know pawn shops lend like that, right? But I'll tell you though, is if they are lending money, they're not lending, $10, $20,000, right? They'll never get that money back. They're doing probably micro payments of $300, $400, just like you would do at a payday loan or a check cashing, right? For a payday loan, when you get paid, your check cashes, right? But I guarantee you that's at 30 to 40%, right? If I'm lending out three, $400, $500, I want half of that money back and some. You know what I mean? So, now you're seeing that the desperation is starting to set in. GoFundMe, essential money being raised. And these aren't to pay, I guarantee you, I mean, even though they say to pay their car notes and things like that, I think these are here to pay their actual like food and living expenses. Like, hey, I gotta go to work to put gas in the car. I gotta put food on the table for my kids and and for my family. Like these are the actual indicators, in my opinion, of a recession. Because as an everyday American, if I can't do those things, nothing else matters. Fuck your car loan. Be honest. Fuck your credit card payment. Don't need it. Okay. If my kids can't eat, I don't care about anything else. So I'll go take a loan out at a payday store, at a pawn shop. I'll sell, some things out of my house. I'll do whatever I gotta do to make sure that my kids can eat. Right. And then we're not even talking about the federal workers where we're going. That's a whole nother subset. I mean, this thing is starting to really unravel. Very interesting times we're living in right now.
Official indicators are always just warnings of an economic downturn. We usually pair them with government's economic data, the gold standard, and that really helps us gauge how close or even how far we are to a downturn. But as I mentioned a moment ago, without the government being open, we don't have that data. So we're missing real critical context, and all we're seeing is these red light flashing.
We don't need government data. I'm gonna continue to say that. We just really don't need this government data, right? It's really not that important. We see exactly what's happening every day. So, I mean, let's not harp on this anymore. We can always talk about what's happening, in everyday life, right? And why things are the way they are. But what could we be doing, right? So I'm gonna shift the narrative just for a second. What could you be doing right now? If you know, or you're a person right now who's like on the fence, this is a great time to start turning your skills into income. Every single one of us has some type of skill, right? Personally, I do financial planning, right? That's my skill. I help people with retirement. But what's your skill, right? Is it designing clothes? Is it working on cars, cutting hair, braiding hair? I mean, whatever it is, you might want to really think about a way to start monetizing that. Because at the end of the day, if we know that AI is going to take over more corporate jobs, more, computer work labor, then you have to go back to the things that people need, services. And I think that was a real problem in the last, 20 to 25 years, is that most Americans got used to not having to do the services. This is the reason why the small business market is kind of crumbling, right? Especially in your urban areas, is because we go work for these corporations thinking that we're going to be here for 20, 30 years, and we put aside the things that we can actually know how to do that also make us money. So I commend any entrepreneur that say, you know what, I'm going to go out there and do my own thing, because those are the people right now set up the best, in my opinion, to get through this recession and depression. People need their haircuts, people need their cars fixed, people need their hair braided. Um, Anything that people need is what you want to focus on. The second thing I always tell you guys is start looking ways to start generating passive income. Okay. Now, so you have your skill trades, things that you can do with your hands, things that you can do as a service. Now, when you start making some of that money, put that money to use by putting it into other assets that are protected. So, life insurance is a great asset that's protected, that grows money. High yielding savings accounts, right? Index annuities. Some of these things that you aren't necessarily going to be losing money, you're going to earn some interest on, but that your money can grow. Okay. You want to stay safe. You want to stay less risky, especially in this inflated stock market, which I'll spend some time on that in the future about what I think the stock market is going to do in the near future. With that being said, you guys stay consistent, stay smart. Remember, it's not about timing the market. It's about your time in the market, if that's what you choose to do. You guys keep saving America's money. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.